Snapchat who'd liked, subscribed, stomached videos of her performing liposuction on a patient from her. The news that plastic surgeon had been stripped of her right to practice medicine in the state of Ohio was the stunning but not surprising conclusion to what had unfolded like a dramatic real-life season. These three patients' experiences were discussed during the hearing that would determine whether Gra got to keep her license. One with a bowel perforation, another with 6 bowel punctures, discovered when the patient had to be hospitalized for breast bleeding. With motor vehicles generating nearly a tenth of global CO2 emissions, governments and environmentalists around the world are scrambling to mitigate the damage. In wealthy countries, strategies often revolve around electrifying cars, and for good reason. Many are looking to Norway for inspiration. Norway has emerged as the world's undisputed leader in electric vehicle adoption. With generous government incentives available, 87% of the country's new car sales are now fully electric, a share that dwarfs that of the European Union and the United States.
The EV boom has hobbled Norwegian cities' efforts to untether themselves from the automobile and enable residents to instead travel by transit or bicycle, decisions that do more to reduce emissions, enhance road safety, and enliven urban life than swapping a gas-powered car for an electric one. Government has begun to unwind some of its electrification subsidies in order to mitigate the downsides of no-holds-barred EV promotion. Countries should introduce EV subsidies in a way that doesn't widen inequality or stimulate car use at the expense of other transport modes.
These kinds of thoughts are at the heart of the imposter phenomenon, also known as imposterism or imposter syndrome. As a clinical psychologist, I've known many bright, highly accomplished clients who have downplayed their own competence, despite their achievements. For some, the belief that they are secretly inadequate leads them to avoid opportunities, such as taking on more responsibility at work or applying for a new position, that they would likely find rewarding. I was accepted to a competitive doctoral program.
The black homeownership rate in LA was 33.5%, according to the U.S. Census, the 124th lowest among metropolitan areas in America. At the same time, 58% of white households in the LA metro area owned homes. Besides a legacy of discriminatory housing practices and policies that historically prevented black families from buying homes and building generational wealth, the National Association of Real Estate Brokers said, the ability to come up with the 20% down payment required to buy a home with a conventional mortgage is also an impediment.
The high housing costs aren't unique to big cities. In the 2023 Snapshot of Race and Home Buying in America, the National Association of Realtors research group said rising mortgage rates and home prices significantly hurt affordability, forcing many buyers out of the market. The report stated mortgage rates have doubled since the previous year and housing prices have reached an all-time high. He was working as a writer and script coordinator for Blue's Clues. Walker said he plans to continue to seek out more opportunities to buy properties.
Originally termed the imposter phenomenon by the U.S. psychologists Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes in 1978 and then relabeled imposter syndrome by others, the experience involves a feeling of phoniness or inadequacy that exists and persists despite evidence to the contrary. If you've had this experience, you likely have an inner critic or imposter voice. Women struggling with their confidence came to be described as if they were suffering from some type of disordered psyche, a syndrome. What was ignored was the role of organizational and systemic bias.
Whether you got inspired to start running after watching a road race or received some encouragement from a friend or a doctor, figuring out where to begin can feel overwhelming. But the steps to creating a consistent run routine are simple. Cooling down, while less critical, allows your body to gradually adjust from running back to a resting state. Just a few minutes of walking is all you need to let your heart rate return to normal and for your body to clear out any metabolic waste you created during your efforts. Exercise physiologist and co-author.
The automobile was Norway's indispensable vehicle. It was then that Norwegian entrepreneurs launched two early electric car startups, Buddy and Think. Though their models were clunky and inefficient by today's standards, the companies spurred excitement that Norway could become a global hub of EV production. Norway's dreams of becoming a global hub of EV manufacturing quickly fizzled when the companies ran into financial problems. I spotted a tiny, aged Buddy squeezed into an Oslo parking spot. EV policies were now championed. At first glance, Norway's EV embrace might seem odd. The country lacks a domestic auto industry and its dominant export is, of all things, fossil fuels. Nevertheless, Norway's unique geography and identity helped put it at the vanguard of car electrification. Norway embarked on a road-building binge, constructing bridges over fjords and boring tunnels through mountains to connect downtowns with new neighborhoods on the urban fringe. As Norwegian cities expanded, public transit took a back seat, dumping some of the trams into the North Sea.